it difficult, inspire others. I've been in similar situations myself in races. It's not about just riding at the front or trying to kind of chase down the Austrian rider at the front. It's about trying to provoke others, that catalyst. When De Vries went on the attack, others start to attack, but just as soon as we say this, it can all locks down again. So that catalyst, the Dutch are trying to get the others to start to race as well.
And look who's come up to the front as well, a team with great wisdom on board. Australia. Brodie Chapman, Loretta Hansen, Zander Manley. We have Ruby Rose McGannon, and of course Amanda Spratt as well. They don't want to miss out.
I think she's saying hello to her family, and I think this is one of the main reasons why she's doing this. An opportunity.
Look, smiling.
World Championships. This race is going out worldwide, and it looks as if she's loving it. Obviously, she's tiring because she's been out there for some considerable time now. But it's either you come to the World Championships and just try and get round, or you make a name for it yourself, and that's what the Austrian is doing.
Whoa, this is one of those turns I was telling you about. Looks like we've got a little bit of moisture down there as well upon the road. I don't know whether that was a traffic management island that they've ground out for the World Championship. Sometimes that happens. Somebody says, oh, nice bit of cobblage here in the middle, and everybody goes, yeah, that looks lovely, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, you've got a bike race to get through here. Here is the Kimi Hurura. This is that cobbled section that you've got to deal with, and you have to fully invest. And they're starting to do so. And some of those riders who find themselves isolated and alone, no teammates around them, are now getting into position. Sweden here with Caroline Anderson, just making sure that she's on the front row. She's on her own. Blanka Vas of Hungary, only 23 years of age, super versatile, and I think one of the big sort of outsiders to shine brightly today. Haven't seen hide nor hair of her, which makes me worry just a little bit, but I'm peeling my eyes for number 72 to see indeed if I can find her. But yeah, Vas is somebody you've got to watch out for. I've watched her at junior level on track, uphill and down dale, and yeah, I think as a versatile rider, and that's where you've got to look if you're looking for somebody who's perhaps just waiting in the wings to impose themselves ever so slightly. Let's wait and see. Meanwhile, the attrition rate goes on. We saw Reda struggling a little bit earlier on, and she still is, I'm afraid, just off the back of neutral service here. She's in good company though. There were plenty here that this is the individual neutral athlete, which is Frolova, also just struggling a little bit. Looks like she needs to increase her seat stem, to be honest. Whatever you're comfortable with, Brian, and today comfort is hard to find. Yeah, exactly. It's ever-changing circuits. There's a couple of quick descents, sweeping corners. It's got everything. The cobbles here, 2 short, sharp climbs as well. So, everything in this World Championship. And I think so far we can say that the strongest rider has won every race. Absolutely. And sometimes the bravest, the men's juniors, that was phenomenal, wasn't it? Yeah, but I think he was the strongest in the end as well. He took his opportunity, the Brits, and took a historical world title. Never been done before by any other Brit. Just as I'm searching for Hungary, there she is, number 72. They've got a new livery, and it almost looks like one of Brian's famous sort of graded sunglasses, going from green, from red through to green there. Yeah, I mean, he's got a few style tips for you. That's Brian Smith, if you're ever interested. We'll take some of your questions a little bit later on, I'm certain, but this looks like it is livening up. And it's mob-handed at the front because everyone's expecting action, even if it's not happening, Brian. There's a tension which is now washing over the pack. Yeah, the Dutch were trying to provoke something. Yep. It's come to nothing. But I don't think they'll sit back for too long. Nope. I think they'll try again. What about the Swiss? Sending, indeed, a strongish selection as well. They've got Elise Chabet, top 10. certainly capable of doing exactly that. In fact, she's been top 10 the last 2 occasions in the Worlds. So Chabet, not too shabby. We've got Marlon Reusser as well. Time trials, great to have somebody like that who can slingshot you into action. Naomi Rög, Yasmin Lechti, and indeed Janina Kaluri as well. So yeah, Chabet likes short, steep climbs. Guess what we've got here? Exactly that. So the Swiss Miss, as they are occasionally known, just up on the front line. Meanwhile, still out there is Karina Schrempf. And the rhythm of welcome continues. Seven laps to go. We're eating into this, Brian.
Yeah, we're getting there, slowly but surely. It's not, you know, the fastest time schedule so far for this race, but I'm pretty sure that so far, you know, there's a lot of strong legs still left in this main group. You know, it's a case of just, you know, blocking everything out. We can say that, you know, the Dutch want it a little bit harder, but they're not going to take it on themselves. We saw in the under 23 men's race that the Belgians took it on, and they were quite happy taking it on, but they never came up trumps in the end. But I don't think the Dutch want to just ride on the front. They want to instigate something, and it hasn't happened. Nobody wants to play with the Dutch at the moment.
No, they don't. And Belgium don't seem to want to play the game at all. They're sort of middle at the back at the moment, but there's only 3 of them, despite the fact they have the right to turn up here with 8. Defending champion is not part of proceedings, but Julia van der Veld is good climber, actually, good baroudeur, good counter-attacker, really. But Van Pechtenbecker, Margot, great name, my daughter's name. Yeah, she has suddenly produced some stunning form, actually, after finishing only, well, in the 80s, I think, last time by, the last championships, or indeed, that was her best performance, I think, as we just dwell on the Beehive, which is the convention centre here. Very unconventional for a convention centre. They also have Mareke Meert as well, but it is down to the Netherlands. Some others just starting to display their hope. Poland, Brian, I always describe them as a team that must never be underestimated, and Nieuwedoma, who, again, somebody who translates from the track to the road very, very successfully. She took bronze in 2021, and I think this course absolutely suits her. It also, dare I say it, suits the Polish attitude, which is to upset the apple cart, go for it, be part of our thoughts.
Absolutely, Nieuwedoma Finney, definitely. Tour de France last year, pretty much, you know, saved the yellow jersey from the Demi-Vollering in Alpe d'Huez last year, and definitely a course that will suit her. And she's been looked after. She's the second of the Polish riders towards the front now, and yeah, definitely if there's a championship course that suits her, then Nieuwedoma Finney is definitely one of those.
Well, they've also got Marta Lach, who's very experienced. Peretiko, I beg your pardon, is the support rider. Carolina, I'll get a name right in a moment. Perekitko, there we are. I got there in the end. The Kitco. Want a Kit Kat? Other, indeed, snacks are available, and they are trying to get sustenance here. And look at the queue, Brian. They're almost coming to a standstill, such as the desperation for, indeed, fluids and sustenance.
Well, just look at the gaps in the group now, and it's always a problem. And normally you would get your teammates to grab your bottles and things like that, so you don't get involved with that. You go to the left, get your teammates to get your bottles. But for some, they don't have too many teammates, so everybody trying to grab bottles. I said how important it is to keep you know, hydrated, and this, of course, in the humidity and up at this altitude and the heat, you have to. But you miss a feat, you've got, you know, we've talked about this before, where you've been at World Championships and even King Kelly, Sean Kelly, was asking me, saw me take a bottle and was asking me, for some of that water. It's so important, but there's a lot of hidden dangers around these feed stations.
Well, not least giving Sean Kelly a drink.
Yeah, because he finished the bottle almost.
Gave it back to Brian with a couple of teaspoons left in it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Peloton, Brian.
He was riding for Ireland, I was riding for Great Britain.
Yeah. Never made that mistake again, did he?
No.
To be honest, he's bought you a few drinks in the past.
He has, yeah.
To make up for it.
Not of the water type.
Meanwhile, the gap at 2 minutes and 50, holding for Kirina Shrev. Meanwhile, the party goes on. Italy staying locked and loaded. And as you can see, Trinidad and Tobago. Tanya Campbell, I've been very impressed with her, actually. She's kept herself very much up towards the front. She's very much a looming figure, a giant, it seems, here. That's no great respect to a course like this of, indeed, that kind of body frame. But if you've got the power, then you can pour it on, take your respite where you need it within a course. And indeed, impose yourself when you need to. This is Rayana Marcus back to the car. A little bit of a chit-chat. No radios here, so good to get...
Is that Lawrence 10 down?
I think it might have been, yeah.
Riding Bravo. Very good ex-professional rider. Does look like him, but 26 minutes that lap there, the slowest that they've gone. So I think that's why we're starting to see the Dutch trying to create something just a little bit too easy for them.
Well, shall we hear from Demi Vollering? Bronze in the time trial. Starting off today as one of Brian's golden picks, and indeed Demi Vollering could well be doing a job for us here today. So, yeah.
Well, it's hard to say, because also all the other races who take place so far, you see every race is really like a different outcome. We saw solo, we saw today, this morning, quite a big group going to the finish line, so I think everything can happen.
How are the legs?
I hope good. It's always, you never know until the start went, and after 2 laps you think like, okay, yeah, now I know, but no, I don't know yet.
And then it's a question of being patient?
Yes, I think, yeah.
Well, they say patience is a virtue, but more than anything, on a course like this, timing is what you need. Get that right, and it's going to go very right for you. In the absence of radios, the junior race was a good indicator to us, actually. Clearly, the Belgian team, for example, were given some strict instructions, and they stuck to them. You've got to be a bit fluid in your approach, Brian, because ultimately, the decisions you make get magnified in their importance the closer we get to the finish line. And you can get it wrong here. You can find yourself out of position and out of contention.
Yeah, ultimately, it's about you physically, how you adapt to the conditions. This is a one-day hit-out race, and you go through so many feelings and emotions. At this stage, you start to think, you start to kind of doubt yourself a little bit, and that's where you have to have the confidence, and you have to have good management in the car, making sure that everything's right. And of course, when you think maybe I'm not feeling good, you might feel good towards the end. You go through so much in a race of this, because you put that importance on yourself. This is the World Championship. This is not just a one-day race. It's the World Championships. The rainbow bands are up for someone at the end of this race today, and you keep on having to remind yourself, keep the gears down, save energy, eat, drink. There's a lot going on, although we seem to be seeing that these riders just going round lap after lap, 25, 26, 34, 35 kilometres an hour. Not overly difficult for the moment anyway. So I think the key from every interview that we've had, and Vollering was right there, there's no formula to how these races are run out. We've seen different races, how they've unfolded. As you say, the junior race 36 kilometres ago, solo efforts, and And then this morning in the junior women's race, it was a group coming to the end, and very, very different. And of course, a lot of these pro athletes are looking at these races, trying to work out their strategy, of course. But ultimately, Carlton, this is going to come down. And some races are not like that. Some races you can win tactically. You can win with, using your own tactics, using your brain. This ultimately comes down to whether you get the legs or not. Who is the strongest rider in the race will win this race today.
Absolutely. And when indeed that spotlight gets turned on, basically the action moment, it's hard to predict. And how important do you think it is, Brian, that there's a lack of radios here? That's a great leveler, because some teams, of course, they wouldn't even be able to afford that sort of equipment. But that definitive coaching, if you like, that comes in through the earpiece, you've got to go back to the car if you want to have any of that. And that will become as a paucity later on, especially as the pace picks up. And the pace you're looking at right now, we're going to be seeing a little bit more of. But they've got to think for themselves, Brian. Sometimes you can do that by committee if you have teammates around you. But this is about strategizing for yourself, ultimately, isn't it?
You've already got a plan, and I can mention the Beijing Olympic road race, where I think the Dutch got it wrong with the Austrian winning that one. And I think there is a blackboard at the front of the race, is having that plan beforehand in the team. And we saw Marcus going back to the car and speaking to the Dutch manager. I don't think anything changes too much. Of course, you talk about all these scenarios, Carlton, you have to remember these scenarios. One rider in front at almost 3 minutes is not going to change how you race. It does look as if the Dutch team want to make it a little bit harder. I've already put a couple of tentative attacks in to try and spark others. Others are just going to sit and wait. So I don't think the radios are going to have a huge amount of difference. And of course, we've seen this in the Dutch team in the past as well, Carlton. And we've seen it even at the highest level in World Championships, especially with Spain and Italy and things like that. Do you want to work with that captain or this captain? Who is the captain? We've seen splits in the camp. So that's why it's important, because a lot of these riders, they're probably riding together for the first time this year. They don't ride national team races, and of course they ride for their trade teams, and that's the difference. You have to come to World Championships with riders from different teams, rivals all year long, and put them together for one day to try and win the world title.
Well, opinions, of course, one thing about opinions is that they vary. And you're absolutely right, Brian. I remember the internal arguments within the Belgian team in particular. Remco Evenepoel not happy at all about his declared support role. The Kigali Golf. Oh, there is one happy person. Got handed a bead on, and you can hear that party going on right now. Schwempf just handing over a bottle. Meanwhile, that's a great shot, isn't it? Just next to this high lake that we're dealing with. You see the pace that they are garnering on this descent. Back to the head of proceedings, and indeed, as you can see, we've got a nice little highway section to deal with right now. I must say the road's been absolutely impeccable. Not a hint of any debris or indeed, I mean, when you look at some of the roads that we actually deal with and have played with in World Championships in the past, this is like a magic carpet almost, Brian.
Yeah, a lot of the riders have been saying how impeccable the circuit is. Smooth roads, good roads, I dare to think what they would be like in the rain, and I hope that stays off. But one thing is for sure, although it's not the fastest of laps, but Karina Schrempf is really enjoying herself in these World Championships.
And good for her as well. She went off early and she's still holding a margin. It's been pretty much unchanged actually throughout. I think we've got some weather coming in. There was a suggestion of some damp on the circuit, and we are expecting a little bit more. See the tree line here just following the river, which provides the irrigation for all the tea and rice in these parts. Tea on the hills, rice in the valleys.
There is coffee here as well.
I know. And chocolate. There we are. How would we manage without that? Meanwhile, this is a big pinch point on the circuit. This is high pace to get into this corner, Brian. It might be a factor.
Yeah, both entries to the climbs significant. You see the Italians, well, they've got a lot of their team towards the front here in the Azzurri blue.
Almost permanently. They've been up there monitoring.
Yeah, I think they're the most consistent team that have been towards the front. Spain now reacting to this one, and we're also seeing the Dutch, no real surprise there, is there? Germans getting involved. So yeah, I just think it's a little bit slow for some nations, and they want to try and kind of pick up the pace and go racing.
We got it now. The rhythm being beaten out at the side of the road and kind of thins down. As soon as your move gets marked out, sometimes you can just back into it, and sometimes, well, some fireworks, they don't hit the outer atmosphere. Just how important is the altitude that we're dealing with here, Brian? It has a cumulative effect through a run such as this. They'll feel like they've been on an altitude training camp when they finished.
Yeah, it affects people differently, and it's all about your own preparation. Some doing altitude training camps, others not, and of course the air is that little bit finer. For one, I didn't really kind of sleep too well at altitude, and talking to a lot of kind of different riders, they're exactly the same. Of course there is benefits, but some people adapt to it better than others, and it's as simple as that. Yeah,
I find if I have even a modest oxygen debt, I start to feel really uncomfortable. Even a stuffy restaurant, I have to leave, Brian, and for that very reason. And the way that you metabolize oxygen as well, it varies. It's the nature of humans. Of course, some will be from areas of the planet which, of course, thrive at altitude. Most notably the Colombians. Some Colombians live almost naturally at a very, very high level, which affects their blood cell count and how you actually deal with a lack of oxygen. It's something that's often sought out by elite athletes, isn't it? Thin air, essentially.
Yeah, it's all in the preparation. Some athletes have, altitude tents at home, so you've got the balance that you don't have to be away, because it's so important sometimes that to be home with family. There's a lot of sacrifices made in cycling, and a lot of teams were going over to Tenerife and going to the kind of altitude training camps, and it's boring, monotonous. You're either eating, sleeping, or training, and it's as simple as that. And a lot of even riders that I've worked with in the past, even talking to them about joining the teams that I've been involved with, a couple of them have asked that to stay at home. They don't want to do these training camps because, okay, you get adapted to the conditions a little bit better, but it's the mentality as well. If there's no point sending a rider to an altitude training camp if he's not going to be super motivated out the other side, if he's going to be a little bit kind of down and missing home comforts and things like that. And believe me, that strides through the whole peloton. So it's about getting that balance right. It's not just about the physical side, it's about the mental side as well.
There we are. Just looking at Marlon Reusser. brilliant time trials, as you well know, from these championships. We're avoiding giving you too many results of previous races because we're focusing on today, but also just in case you want to go and catch up with the action, indeed that is available to you. Great to have your company here, and great to see this fabulous festival. Well, the sun's decided to come and join us. We've had some clouds rolling in, but it's been a bright start, I think you might say, for Karina Schrempf. She is off and up the road with 92 and a little bit more kilometres remaining. She has an advantage of 2 minutes, just around about the 2.5 minute mark. We're playing here in Kigali, and this is the first ever World Championships on the African continent, and it is wonderful to see. The Côte de Kimihurura is this cobbled climb that will be of magnified importance the deeper we get into this race, because the percentages that we're dealing with made all the more difficult to bear because of the uneven surface. Some of those who get their gear changes wrong on the approach to this have thrown change, which is not happy. Schrempf is happy, delighted to be up here. Occasionally the cameras, she's given a look-see to her family. She's made it an honest race. However, the pace has not been at its highest. We've just fallen below 36 kilometres per hour. I suspect when we finish we'll be nearer the 40. There's been a few sort of animations behind, but every time anyone tries to escape from the pack, be that Spanish rider, French rider, we've seen a few attempts by them, some of those who are indeed from the lesser represented nations as well. The fire has been put out by the Netherlands. That doesn't mean to say that that is the end of duties. Absolutely not. In fact, this may well liven up quicker than perhaps you had thought, and as a result we are seeing Norway here with Alerud and Hugzet just adding a little bit of drive, marked out by France. Australia have been on policing duties as well, and this is the sort of time where teams could start to mix it up a little bit, just to kind of test the, others out, especially some of the stronger teams like Italy, like the Netherlands, like France. If you're even slightly short-handed, then you might well be at a disadvantage, and Belgium have gone very quiet in this race. Quiet, I think, on the approach to it. Looking at Julia van der Velde here, just keeping herself safe, just backing out on this big descent here. But yeah, somebody who is could take on a day like this, and even with 3 riders, it could bizarrely act in their favour, because if you're short-handed, teams can actually start thinking, well, maybe not fully committed. I can tell you that Van Pachtenbecker will certainly be that later on for Belgium. Maybe an abundance of riches. Sometimes that causes a stall within a team because you're not quite sure where the principle lies. I think there's a bit of a settlement within the Netherlands squad. Anna van der Breggen, twice a world champion. Demi Vollering, never done it, but a bronze in a time trial at the Worlds. But let's see, Roy Jakkers, all from the Netherlands. Very strong team, and suddenly absent from the front. They've done a lot of putting out fires. I think they're fed up with it, quite frankly. Belgium, well, if Van der Velde is at the back, then Miert is here, not that far away. Van Pechtenbecker as well. So Belgium may well go loud. They'll certainly want to. They've made the trip, but only with 3 riders when they had the right to bring 8. Meanwhile, Schrempf, all on her own, is out front, and good for her, making us talk about Austria. You'd kind of think, Brian, the amount that we've mentioned, Schrempf, that was more than just one rider from Austria in this race.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, there is only one rider, and only one chance of that. It was the Canadians in the red and the white that was going to lead into that. Alison Jackson was on the front there leading into the bottom of the climb, came around the corner, and then the Italians doing what they've done pretty much all, just hugging that barrier side on the right-hand sides. French have came up. I don't think for one moment that the Dutch are happy with the situation. They want to instigate something. They don't want to just ride on the fronts. They want to make a race of this one, and I expect them to do something very similar, because again, you know, we're coming round here, although Schrempf has lost a little bit of time. It's up towards the 3-minute mark. This first kind of part of the race has been rather slowish, and I think it, you know, for the Dutch especially, they've already shown that, you know, they want it a little bit harder.
The way that the Dutch have actually now fractured and moved back within the pack, they're sort of indicating their own isolation, I guess you might say, to the riders that are immediately shoulder to shoulder with them. I think the Dutch have got a battle plan here, and I think they're going to have some riders in a breakaway ultimately, and whether that includes the favourites, I'm not quite sure, but they've certainly decided that they're not going to waste any more time out front just holding a margin, and they've backed out of it, and other teams have kind of said, oh, what are we going to do now? Well, they've got a choice to make. They can either cohere around a drive, which seems to have happened, and it's taken the gap down to now 1 minute and 54 from around about the 3-minute marker, and other teams have had to step up. The Dutch have said, we're not doing this anymore.
I don't think it's a case of the peloton getting any faster. For me, I think it's now looking like Karina Schrempf is starting to slow a little bit now. You can see Alison Jackson, the Canadian, bouncing around at the back here, and she hit the bottom of the climb at the front. She's used this sliding room, former Paris-Roubaix winner, of course, the Canadian at the back there, but she started the climb at the front, slid back. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of this, trying to conserve energy for what's going to happen later on in this race.
A lot of Slovenian green knocking around the place, I can tell you. Just one representative for Slovenia here at these World Championships in the Women's Elite Road Race. But it's Urška Ziegert, and very accomplished she is too, partner, of course, of Tadej Pogačar. But it's amazing how Slovenia is very much the forefront of the consciousness of cycling fans everywhere, including, of course, those who are at the side of the road here. Whatever gearing makes you happy. Alison Jackson spinning it up. That's a heck of a cadence to cope with this climb, Brad.
And it's just her style, really.
Yeah.
She's not really classed as a climber. Of course, a strong rider is Alison Jackson. As previously mentioned, you know, she's won Paris-Roubaix, and that's a feat in itself, but started the climb at the front, finished the climb at the back, still got the kick up towards the finishing line. I don't think she'll be a feature, but she's clearly working for someone else within that Canadian team.
Well, let's see. Always love watching the Canucks because they often punch above their weight. It should be Magdalena Valliere. Is it Valliere or Valliere? I think it might be the latter. Yes, of course, suits her. She was one earlier on I was saying watch out for. Very much a dark horse within this group. Let's see. Well, they're coming home and the clock will be definitive as they cross the line. A little bit of a shimmy as they all want to have a good look at this. I think once you get over a crest, and of course our finish line is on one, there's always a chance that somebody will spring off, and so they want to mark them out, and I think that's what you're seeing right now. Norwegians, again, over towards the right-hand side of your view here, so on the left-hand side of the riders, from the rider's view, but right as you're looking at it, that distinctive blue, white and red, mostly red, of course. Ever since Anneliese Dirksen caused something of a shockwave around the world, they really start to hollow. Nations like Denmark, of course, as well as the Norse. Not many Scandinavians here, I'm afraid. Sweden, thin on the ground.
Yeah, only one rider, like the under-23 race with Sudquist, come with one rider. As we said right from the start of these World Championships, not everybody has decided to send a complete team, of course.
Well, Denmark haven't.
I know. So they have decided that, they want to save their money in the federation and concentrate on something that they can do. I think it's a crying shame. I'd love to see Vingegaard here,
Yeah, me too.
especially after the win in the Vuelta. But we have to deal with the riders that we have, and of course many of the women are here, apart from the obvious Lotte Kopecky, winner of this race over the last couple of years. So it's a shame that she is not here, but a lot of nations decide not to send full teams.
Just looking further back, and I'm watching here Özge Ziegert. She's now moved to the centre of proceedings. She said this was all about folding in her energies as we go, Brian. You can get some surprises. Youngsters can come through and basically define their career almost. And just look at this. We've been talking about her at the back, and Ziegert, she got where she needed to be to get her bottle. She's put one in the cage. She's got one tethered in her mouth as we speak. She said in an interview, you've got to be clever on a day like this, especially if you're on your own, even more so. And she's riding clever right now. She's at the pointy end.
Yeah, you have to, especially when you're on your own. Most of the day she's been riding at the back, but that does tell me that she's got a sense that something may start to happen. It's one of these situations. There's some riders here, of course, that are sitting at the back here, not by choice. They started to feel the pinch, but there's some more kind of experienced riders have moved up a little bit more now, purely because they've got that feeling that something may start to happen.
Yeah, that's precisely what I was alluding to, is that you've got to be clever, especially if you're on your own, and so marking out potential moves as we approach the halfway mark of today's course. It can only get livelier. This is the Volcanoes National Park, Rwanda's northern province. The mist-shrouded peaks, of course, with iconic wildlife. And if you ever are going to come to this part of the world, then make sure you go on a gorilla trek. There we are. Sounds like fun. And here we are. Here's the time that has been taken. The 5th lap completed.
Slower.
Yeah, it slowed down, but I think that's because there's almost a regathering here. Everyone realizes that the racing could well be about to really kick off. Here we go. World champs from the car. And the ice balls have started to be kicked out here, Brian. We're coming up to the mid-afternoon, the hottest part of the day.
Well, that's the fortunate part of this, and being the only rider in here, you have to have a minimum number of riders to have your own team car. I would assume that that's a shared team car with some other nations.
Very much so.
So she's quite lucky to have that team car here servicing her. Most of the time she's been serviced by the pit area at the side of the road, but to go around that last lap at about 33 kilometres an hour is kind of slowish, and I think there's great anticipation here. We've not kind of lost too many riders over the last few laps. It's now 74 riders in here. We've been hovering around 74, 72, 78 across the finishing line as a group, but just look at it here, it's kind of bunched up. 33, 34 kilometres an hour. We expect this race to be up towards the 40 kilometres an hour mark come the finishing line. So this is suiting some, maybe not others, and there's possibly that sense that something may happen soon, and you don't really kind of want to miss out. We've mentioned Ziegert of the Slovenian team. She's now down the back again. She cannot go with everything. There's a lot of nations in here that can't go with everything because they don't have the numbers. The teams with the numbers are, they've got the strength. They've got multiple options, so they can afford to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But for some, they've only got a few matches to burn.
Just look at Italy. They've been solid together throughout the entire run. a thing I've admired about Italy for quite a few years, and it's something, to my mind anyways, we're just dwelling on France Prévost. They're just on the inside of Italy, and the sort of darker, almost a navy blue there, the sort of more azzurro as it kicks off. In Spain, a couple of probes they have offered up out there, and that test is now being answered, and thank goodness, here it goes. We're kicking off as we approach the halfway mark of this race, and suddenly there's a reach out here. Fed it with the pace. Hungary want to get involved as well, one of the few solo riders, and this is great to see. Come on then, have a little bit of this. Love this. We were talking about Blanka Vas, just 23 years of age, super versatile, heavy rider, but can climb. She was fourth in Leuven recently, 10th in Glasgow, fourth in Leuven back in the day, I beg your pardon, and indeed 10th in Glasgow. She knows how to ride a Worlds. And right now, despite the fact she has youth on her side, and you think maybe paucity of experience, she's actually been at this level before. She's on her own, and she's thinking, to hell with this, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and the first riders to react there was actually Alison Jackson, the Canadian.
Yep.
She went from the front to the back in that previous climb there. You know, that sliding room which we mentioned, but yeah, De Vries is the rider there from the Netherlands. But yeah, what we were saying is that sense, these slow laps, it was about time that somebody started to instigate something, and the Hungarian has. And it's another one, we've been talking about Slovenia and Sigard. Well, Hungary have only got one chance at this as well, and you know, a strong chance at this. And you know, she's decided that, you know, now is the moment to try and instigate something, and let's see what develops here.
Well, they got a bit more swing than the Grimesthorpe colliery band, but I'm loving it. Vas has gone, and everybody else has to respond, and there's a whole sequence of rolling punches here, and every time you're getting some of those less numerically represented nations thinking, well, yeah, maybe now's the time. If you can form into a proper cohesive fighting force up front, and Vas has asked the questions, a few that have got some answers here. Don't be surprised if the United States have a dig into something like this. Someone like Ruth Edwards would be absolutely great to get up the road. Chloe Daggett, I think, will follow the favourites, but occasionally, if you've got anybody in as a support rider, it would be useful potentially to have them up the road. But you can draw strength. We said about these corners, Brian, in the introduction to the climbs, they are of importance and sometimes greater significance.
Yeah, they've been round here so many times already, but probably not at this speed. So, you know, the quicker you go into that corner, the more it kind of pushes you out. And the French rider at the front was pushed out, but just look at Blanka Vas. She looks so easy.
She's great.
Not concerned about anything, not even looking around. And as I said, another rider that has not got any teammates to consider here. She has to look after herself and try and get the best result possible.
Here's the principal teams. The Netherlands, France, Italy in the middle of that little sandwich. And guess what? Belgium also coming to join the fun. And suddenly the alarm bells are going. Germany want a part of it. Switzerland, Canada, likewise. And it's just fraying off the front now, Brian. This is what we want.
Yeah, that's what the Dutch were trying to do in the last couple of laps. Just have the race start to kind of kick off a little bit. It was a little bit too slow for them, and thankfully for them it has kicked off. And now we're into, you know, the kind of 80 odd kilometres to go. It's you know, the catalyst is started now, so we're starting to see the race start to get faster.
Well, almost catching up with the camera bike here, just switching to the other side of the road. That's not to avoid the aero, that is simply to give herself the shortest route through here. And the chase is on behind. Vas is a proper threat here, and look what's happened to the gap now. 1:07 down to Schrempfus up front. And most notably, she's got a margin here of around about 10 seconds on what is a concerted chase that actually has been responded to by the peloton. That's been wound back in. Let's see how committed this is. Just clears the nasal passages. No information will be getting back to the riders as to the demeanour of Vas up front. No radios here, but just cohering as a group. They've kind of thought about the threat, thought better of it potentially, and now they are all back together. But this is a proper reach out. The gap goes to, what, 13 seconds between Vas and the peloton. 15 now as she looks back for the first time, actually. pushing into this gap, and I'm just waiting to see what the response is. Still, they're thinking about it, Brian, but at least their thoughts and their plans are now becoming clear. Hard to put everything out, every fight.
Yeah, there's no real chase here. The Italians have come to the front, the French as well, a lot of dark blue, but I think they're waiting for this this golf climb to come up for some other reaction. But, you know, one rider, I know it's Blanka Vas and a very strong rider at that, but, you know, she's not fully committed to this one as well. She looks relaxed. You know, she's just setting a tempo. She knows 82 kilometres to go to the finish. It's a long, long way to go on your own. Even if she catches the Austrian rider, Schrempf, it's a long, long way to go for this young 24-year-old.
Well, she double checks, and I think looking over the shoulder tells you about the commitment here. I think she possibly hoped she would draw out a response. I thought as well that we might have a lick of 6 or 7 riders that would actually just separate themselves, but too many were called back, and too many of the principal teams were involved in the reach out to try and moderate this gap. And now she knows it, she's going to be on her own, and this doesn't serve her well.
No, I don't think this was a plan, like you say. She was hoping maybe to instigate something, maybe get herself in a group, but I think too many of the stronger nations have kind of marked each other out, and she's now committed. She's not going to just kind of sit up. She's got, you know, 26 seconds, so she will want to go onto this climb, and hopefully some riders will come across there.
Her action, though, has indeed drawn the peloton closer to Schrempf, now at 1:23. And the closer they get, the more is the bait, the temptation, really, for others to push out of the pack and indeed start their own race with 82 kilometres just shy of to go.
Yeah, I don't think they were really too worried about the Austrian rider here. It was more a case of riding to what they thought was their best plan of attack to try and win the race. It's, as a sole rider, it's, you know, 3 minutes is just not enough. You know, you're not getting any rest whatsoever at all, and it's always was going to be very hard for Karina Schrempf to kind of stay away for too much longer as soon as they started racing from behind.
Absolutely fabulous levels of support here, and this will be helping Karina Schrempf in her effort here to stay out. It's just starting to close now between herself and Vas, who holds a 40-second margin thereabouts on the peloton, so it could become a diamond duo up front. How long Blanka Vas and Schrempf stay together, if indeed they do come together, we will find out. Just under 200 metres to go until the top of this climb. She's done a good job. Meanwhile, well, it's started to happen. Said some of the principal teams might be in favour of embedding somebody up here. This is Yara Castelline, who's gone off the front, one of the support riders. So if there is going to be a break, sometimes you have to have the forethought to be part of the early moves of it, so you're not chasing on to be involved. Just implant somebody up the road, and that's what we're seeing by some of the principal teams here.
It is, and interestingly as well, towards the front, the South African Ashley Milman-Passio as well. So a few of the riders that maybe aren't the out-and-out favourites are starting to react to this. You can see that wherever the Netherlands go, the Italians were on there, and that was Gasparini that was up there for Italy.
This is Savarine Mwirebere of Rwanda. Love their kit, by the way. Meanwhile, yeah, Vas was, I guess, the touch paper, and it started all the other rockets off. When you're looking for wisdom, Ashley Millman is certainly one of those. 38 years of age. She knows a good move when she sees it, and she is very much monitoring proceedings. Now, 2 have gone, notably Italy and the Netherlands. So this is going to be a temptation for anybody else that wants to come and join the fun. Switzerland want to get involved as well. There'll be a few others. Germany won't be that far behind. There's an attempt to mark out some of the strength that is now going up the road. Canada want to play the game likewise. And guess who? Slovenian's Zickert not that far away from the front either. So this is getting serious. Might be mistaken with Zickert, by the way. But still, Kimberly Lecourt is very much there as well, embedded. I think that might have been the misread. Meanwhile, 41 seconds from the peloton to Schwempf with Vass in the middle. Blanca Vass, we thank her because she has animated this part of the course. And suddenly questions are being asked, and look how thin down the pack is.
Yeah, the Netherlands are starting to jab a little bit now. We've been trying to kind of think about it over the last couple of laps, and that was a couple of strong jabs there from them. But you saw some hands going up there from Italy. Wherever the Netherlands are going, Italy's going. Another move possibly in the left-hand side here from the Netherlands. So it does look as if they're starting to jab. They're starting to make this race harder and harder. It's just too slow for them.
There we go. Australia as well marking out. Perakitko for Poland. Great support rider. She wanted to be part of proceedings. Not Niewiadoma, not yet anyway. And suddenly Vass is tagged and the peloton finds itself at 34 seconds, which means that we are up for grabs here. Something special is going to happen. Does she want a shower or does she want a drink? That was the big question.
Well, I don't know what's marked on it. It looks as if it wasn't water anyway, and I think that's what she was requiring.
Yeah, she wanted water, and all of a sudden she got electrolytes, and she didn't want to pour electrolytes. That can get a bit sticky, Brian.
Of course, but this race continues. And it continues to get faster and faster and harder, and the Dutch doing this. This seems to be their tactic. Just keep on jabbing and. I don't think they're going to give up in this one, but I think wherever they're going, the Italians seem to be wanting to go with them.
Safely into the corner. Belgium, I don't know whether this is just for pickup by the pits. Is it a feed zone, this one? No, it's a straight out break for it. This is great. This is Van der Velde, I believe, that has just decided to go for it. It is. So, temptation exists. Anybody else come and join the fun? Vass has done her job. Van der Velde now takes over from the three-rider Belgian team. She is very, very adept here. As you can see, part of a three-rider crew. And questions being asked. Her two teammates, by the way, are tucked in and waiting to mark out, including Van Pechtenbecker. Well, it might not be the strongest team that have been sent here by Belgium, but they're making a noise, Brian.
Yeah, they have to. Again, it's been smart about this, and sometimes you can get carried away. This is the World Championships, of course, and you have to play the cards when you can. Not the youngest in the field at 32 years of age, but she's got plenty of experience. She was with the Lotto Soudal ladies since 2017, moved over to the rival team, AG Insurance Soudal team, and she's got a contract until 2027. But she struck out for glory here with 78 kilometres to go. Everybody seems to be kind of definitely. This should be a quite quicker lap by some margin.
Well, Julie Van der Velde, she's one of the most experienced climbing domestiques, as Brian has already said, within the peloton. And is kind of a long shot for a podium. I'd marked her up as. This is Schwempf, only 19 seconds advantage over Van der Velde. But Margot Van Pechtenbecker is the choice for Belgium. She didn't have a great world's last time. She was 80th. I think I mentioned this earlier on today. But it's been very strong this season, and she's got possibly more than outsider status here. I only say that because it's Belgium, Brian, and you expect a lot from them.
Of course you do. They've always got strong riders at the World Championships. Unfortunately, it isn't here, but they've got three riders that want to make a Piece of it.
Vast still almost dive bombing up the inside. Well, Van der Velde is now coming up onto her shoulder. I know she's made the effort to get up there, but I don't think there'll be any argument about work rates here. Let's see if they cohere. But I think Schrempf now, she won't be tempted to pull the pin, but if she looks back, she might be. She allows herself a glance. Is she going to stay on the wheel of Van der Velde? No, she has done her job for today, and so have some others. Support rider here, Soraya Paladin, just struggling ever so slightly. She's not alone either. Gasparini is also suffering.
Yeah, Barali towards the front, to the back as well for Italy. So just as we saw the Italians, well, they've been riding towards the front for a lot of this race, and although it's not been the fastest, it's taken its toll on some of the riders.
Certainly has. And, well, not many questions have been asked, but let's see who's got the answers to whatever is posed now, shall we? 15 seconds. Schrempf just gathered herself a little bit. After being caught, just drifted to a couple of bike lengths off. Now she's back in thinking, well, I've got a great excuse here. I've done an awful lot of work today, so even if she asks me for a turn, if that elbow flicks out, I can say no. Just stay out here as long as possible. If there is a combativity award, I think Schrempf's going to get it.
Yeah, of course she will, but unfortunately there's not the World Championship. It's only about the medals.
Meanwhile, the sufferance goes on, and if you're suffering now, it can only get worse, Brian.
Yeah, Gonzalez here, and also the Danish rider here on her own. Anderson, another rider that hasn't got any teammates, and at least she's here riding, doing her best, but unfortunately not going to be for Denmark today. But just looking at the peloton behind, I think they're still quite happy with this situation. This has been a little bit of a faster lap, and you know, to go into this lap with 142 advantage, the sole leader of Karine Schrempf has now been brought back, only by Julie Van der Velde, of course, but I don't think the Dutch are over as yet. They'll still want to make this race hard.
That's a bit. I love some of the hats here. Bit of A3, Brian. Some tape. Got a hat. Brilliant. Meanwhile, I'm given to making paper hats for myself, to be honest, because
not good in the rain.
I'm challenged with having not much of a thatch. In fact, no thatch at all. I don't go for a haircut, I go for a polish. But yeah, I need to keep the wind off and the sun off around, that will have to do. This is Gonzalez at the back. Spain have been animators, actually. They've been the ones that have been probing and prodding, but right now, just up to get around about the 30 seconds mark, and we're just coming to the top of this cobbled rise. In fact, we're still a way off. And you can see by the pace here that this is a proper course. It's been a nightmare for some, Brian. I think others will have actually been watching this on television thinking, gosh, I wish I'd gone.
I think there are a couple, yeah, 100%, but I think this was really kind of hyped up. Some riders have thought, well, this is not as bad as I thought initially it was, but then there's some other riders here thinking, wow, this is really difficult. Is this a new peloton run?
Well, I think so. It sounded a bit like that, didn't it? I thought I'd let you enjoy him. Hyping up the crowds here. There's a fabulous atmosphere. And here we are at the essentially the Flamme Rouge. Now you see this little roller coaster you've got. That's a beautiful picture actually of just what they've got to deal with. So they get a bit of pace and you think, oh, we're only killing a bit. There's the Flamme Rouge, and then all of a sudden you've got two climbs to deal with before you get to the line. Two little steps, Brian. Not kind, but wonderfully entertaining.
Yeah, it is, and you know, nice to see a lot of the African flags at the side, and you know, everybody really enjoying themselves. But another reaction in front of the peloton behind from the Netherlands. They're going to keep continuing to the plan, and the plan does mean keep jabbing, because we're going to have the sucker punch near the end.
Well, 28 seconds is the margin. We'll have a definitive in a moment, and suddenly the sparks start. Australia getting involved here as well. This is fantastic. Every single time we come around, Brian, you see this urgency. It's because there's a descent off the peak once you get through the start-finish line, and it will help drive the impetus, really, of a breakaway attempt. And right now, some of the big teams want to be involved, if indeed they've been prodded by some of the smaller teams. Alarm bells going off here for Poland as well. Niewiadoma, who's been very quiet, just starting to move up around the outside. And a few other teams as well. France don't want to miss out. Germany are here as well. And suddenly, just appearing at the side by the barriers here, guess who? It's Urska Ziegert, keeping an eye on her. I think she's going to go well. I hope she does anyway. We've given her the billing. Here it is then. Watch for the time as they cross the line here in Kigali. We're in Rwanda, of course, in Africa for the first time with the World Championships, and it is absolutely burning down right now. This is great. Suddenly we've got a proper drive. They'll come off the peak, they'll head down into the vale, and everyone getting involved. They all want to be as part of the ride. Ukset for Norway is in here. There's a few others as well. And some of the more favoured riders that we will be mentioning loud and proud a little bit later on have actually just got themselves into a proper place. Marta Lach of Poland as well. We're with the Polskis right now, just handing out bottles, maybe to other nations. Got to argue your case amongst a few teams. And still, it's Austria-Belgium with Carina Schrempf, who was up there right from the beginning, and Julie van der Velde, who was bridged over to her. In fact, the only company that she's had, and it looks like they may well have some more company because the gap is modest. This is going to be a breakdown, Brian. Can't wait.
Yeah, that was over the finishing line there. It was 14 seconds, pared back a little bit now. This sole chaser, it was led over by Kerbeau from France, Ruig, Niedermayer, Marcus, Malcotti, De Vries, Hansen, Lach, Chabet. So, you know, it was starting to prove, you know, that a lot of riders were really kind of interested in, you know, making this race a little bit harder now after some slower laps. But with 74 kilometres to go, we do have one rider trying to go across this gap to the two leaders in front.
Well, Will Corby's been in touch, known as the Caffeine Kid. He said Rwanda's coffee is 25% of their national income and has got a blackcurrant tinge to it. He says it's absolutely delicious. So, yeah, happy. Thanks, Will. I'll have a cup later. Meanwhile, the cup runneth over. Belgium might not be the most numerous, but they want to play the game. And this is the, dare I say it, the first serious roll of the dice by a team that could well be in contention a little bit later on. Van der Velde is up there, but what temptation does it offer up? The Netherlands don't want to miss out. There'll be a few other teams as well. France, Italy. When are they going to answer the question that's been posed by Van der Velde?
Well, I don't think they're too worried about Van der Velde. I think it's more of a case of, you know, the Netherlands, and this is why we're seeing Italy propped on the front now in the blue. More riders coming up for Italy. They don't want to miss out. They don't want to give the Netherlands upper hand. I said, I think a lap ago, that